everyone. Welcome to Short Sisters Podcast. I am your host, Kathy, and this is my co-host, Ellen.
Hey, ladies.
We are so excited that you're here with us today. Before we jump in to our episode, which will be about the toddler years.
Ooh, it's been a minute for me. She's right in the middle of it.
We are going to talk about the dessert. I'm going to let Ellen enjoy it while I talk a little bit about it and try to show you.
How cute is that, y'all?
I don't know if you can see this really well. I did share it on my Instagram page.
So cute.
I may share it on our Facebook page after Easter.
This is
or
too
at Easter.
Cute.
But Evangeline, my 10-year-old daughter, made this entirely by herself. So if you've ever made dirt cake, this is basically what it is. It's a layer of crushed Oreo, and then the next layer is the vanilla pudding instant mix with Cool Whip and a little bit of food coloring to make it green, and milk, and then it's the Oreo layer, and then it's the Cool Whip pudding.
Okay.
And then on top, she took white coconut flakes and dyed them green to make it look like grass.
So
Isn't that fun?
Cute.
And then to add to the fun, she put the Whopper eggs, the Whopper malted Easter eggs, and like the little ball sprinkles, and then a little peep. So
That's
it's a
so
perfect
cute,
Easter dessert.
You can do that with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
She looked like she was having they were making it when I got here. Or they had just gotten done making it. So, okay.
She loved it. Okay. So Ellen's going to try it while I chat a little bit.
Yes. While I make a mess. It's messy,
It's probably
y'all.
going to be messy.
Okay. Let me just...
Boy, I should have just opened the napkin.
Very
y'all,
good.
I don't know about you, but this week has been... Today was Monday. It was very much a Monday over at my household.
I'm making a mess. And I'm going to chomp on this Whopper while she talks. Sorry.
Yeah, it was a hard Monday over here. Like, I mean, I was crying probably after lunchtime because I'm just like, oh, being a mom is not easy. And you're fine. That's why I said I would chat a little bit, and then you can chat a little bit about how your day went if you want before we jump in. Yeah, it was a tough Monday over here. I felt like one of my kids pushed back on everything, and I was just like, just love God and love people, and it would be that simple. But we know that sin exists, and it's a part of this world and a part of my children, and that is just going to be hard. So yeah, it was a tough Monday. Thankfully, Jason works from home on Mondays, and so he was a great help.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, I won't mention the fact that at one point you hear this banging on the door, and that's his way of saying, you guys are being too loud. You need to calm down. That's a Taylor Swift quote, by the way. We have friends who actually will, if their kids are being too loud, they'll put on the Taylor Swift song. You need to calm down. You're being too loud. So we've started doing that in the mornings if the big kids wake up before we do.
Do you say, Alexa, please turn on?
Jason will use his phone.
Have Alexa.
Yeah. Jason will put it on. He'll get his phone and push play, and it plays through all the Alexas. And they're like, oh, it's funny.
That's
it's really funny.
Hilarious.
But yeah, it was a tough Monday until about 4 o'clock. And then at 4, I think the kid that kept pushing back felt really bad when they saw me crying, because then after that there was no more pushback, and there was, what can I do for you? And there was cleaning, and I was like, I wonder if I should start fake crying. Fake crying, so that like it's like, what can I do for you? But that's kind of a manipulation. And I don't want to be that mom.
I gotcha, but wow.
Anyway, so yes, that's my Monday. I'll let you talk about your Monday so that I can
enjoy, because it's really good. And I want to eat more, but as you can see, I made a humongous mess on the napkin. It's got coconut flakes everywhere on there. And I think I have some on my shirt. But anyways, it was a typical Monday for me. I don't know if I've shared. I probably have. I work full time. I'm a teacher. I'm a literacy interventionist in the local school district that we live in our community, and it was just a typical Monday. This is the time of the year. If you're a teacher, you can sympathize with me, where it's after spring break. You have one more mini break. Like, we have a 4-day weekend coming up for Easter, Good Friday, and after that, the only break that is left, is going to be when we get out of school, because we get out before Memorial Day. And this is the time of year where the kids' little hormones start jumping, and they're, I have fifth graders that can be drama. They're about to be in sixth grade, and then I pull groups from kinder all the way up to fifth grade. And by the time the last group got to me, I was like, I have a headache. I have a headache. There are days where I mean, don't get me wrong, I love doing what I'm doing, but there are just days where I'm like, I said that. I don't know how many times I have to say it different ways. I just said that. I just it was a Monday today. And by the time Monday, the end of the day came around, I was like, I'm tired. But I was looking forward to recording the podcast. So I was like, okay, I got to get my mind right. And I am super excited. We just opened up our Facebook page, and we got a ton of people that joined. So y'all who joined our Facebook page,
you guys are the best.
Yes, thank you. And you guys are already being interactive, and we have things that we have planned that we're going to post every day to be an active page. And then recipes that we do, like this, like Kathy said, she's going to post this recipe. We will be posting our dessert recipes on there for you guys to use if you need them or you want them. But anyways, so I'm just... thank y'all for supporting us, and we're just super excited about that. But anyways, on to the toddler years.
Yes. So, Ellen.
Yes, ma'am.
You said it's been a minute since you've had toddlers in your life. Mm-hmm. So why don't you share with us what you do remember about your toddlers, and maybe what you felt like was the hardest part for you, and who was your biggest supporter, and some of the things that really helped you get through the toddler years.
Okay, I have to think back because my youngest is 19.
She's old.
I am old. I will be 48 this summer. And I'm grandma too. So every child, I was telling Kathy, I said, every child is different, and every single one of my children, every single one was different. My oldest, who is now 26, he was a very active child. And at that time, I was able to stay home with him. But then I ended up having to work part-time, but he got to come with me because I worked for a daycare. I was the morning secretary, but then I was kind of helping out the director. So I had different roles, but he got to go to school with me. And so he was probably the one that got to spend the most time with me. And your first child, you just, you're kind of at it. You're just trying to feel the ways like, okay, he's throwing a fit. What do I do? If I recall, I didn't really have that much of a problem with Austin. I mean, like if he would act up or whatever, a lot of times just having a talk with him would do the trick. Now, I know people have differing opinions about spanking, and we did spank our children. However, we did that sparingly, and like I said, every child was different. So I say that on an air of caution because there's a lot of people that feel different ways about discipline. But Austin, I don't recall having a lot of problems with him. Austin was my one that was my one that was asking a ton of questions. He would just ask Chad and I so many questions, and it was like deep thinking questions, and we're like, whoa, okay, I don't know how to answer this question. And then Ashlyn is my middle. She is my only girl, and then I probably would have to say for her, she struggled some with she did throw fits. I have to tell this story. I think I've told Kathy the story. I might have told this story already, but I will never forget. We were visiting my parents, and my daughter was 3, and she was having a literal meltdown in my parents' kitchen. And my dad was in the kitchen. He was drinking a cup of coffee. I remember she threw herself on the floor, kicking and screaming, rolling around on the kitchen. And I was just like, I was at my wit's end to the point that I was about to start crying. Here's my dad. He's just sitting on the edge of the counter. He takes a sip of his coffee, puts it down, laughs. He goes, how does it feel? I was so not happy with them at the time. I'm like, it is not funny, Dad. Don't you see? She's throwing a fit. She was my one that I had to work part-time, but I was working at a retail store. I way back in the day, I was undercover security for a major company, a retail company, and I had to work nights. I think this is where I would venture to say that this is where Chad and I, that was probably a rough patch in our marriage. So in some ways, maybe that affected her in some way. But she had a hard time when Chad was, with her in the evenings because I was still breastfeeding. She wouldn't take the bottle from him. I had frozen breast milk. There were times where she wouldn't take it. She just wanted me. So she's a little bit more clingy to me. And then she also had trouble sleeping a lot. These were nights where she would just wake up crying and screaming. We would either get into bed with her or pat her to sleep, end up falling asleep with her in her bed, or she would just end up coming into our bed with us. So her as a toddler, that was kind of rough. Andrew was, I could probably say now, my challenging child, because he had other underlying issues that we didn't know about at the time until he got diagnosed later on when he was in school. But it was just multiple. He was a very defiant child when he was little, and some of it was, I don't think he was verbal. He couldn't verbalize or communicate with us what he wanted. He had an older brother and sister too, right, that would just be like, mommy, he wants this, mommy, he wants that, and they would talk for him and they would do things for him. And he was just he was more active than Austin was. Well, later on when he was in 2nd grade, he got diagnosed. Like it was rough. Yeah. There were times where I would cry and be like, what are we doing wrong? Because I felt like we just tried everything with him, different discipline methods. We did behavior therapy with him for 3 years. The doctor was very hesitant to diagnose him at such an early age, but we knew that there was some issues. We thought even maybe emotional at one point because he just couldn't verbalize. He would have fits. And when I say fits, there would be times where he would just be so defiant. Like if he didn't like dinner, I will never forget the time that Chad was like, you need to at least eat a couple of bites or you're not getting up from this table. Yeah. Chad sat with him at the table for 2 hours.
Wow.
He would not eat the food. He threw a fit so badly. He would throw fits so badly that he would fall asleep because he was so exhausted from throwing fits. And it was so trying. And it was like, I felt like a failure as a mother. I felt like, what are we doing wrong? Like, what is it me? What am I doing? Am I setting him off? Like, why? And there were times where I did not have any patience for him. My husband, God bless him, had so much patience for him,
right,
that he would sit there for a long time. He would like have to hold him when he was kicking and screaming and having his fits. And I would just be in tears and like, what is wrong with my child? You know, he was having outbursts at, he would go to Mother's Day out. Our church at the time had a daycare. And that was when my husband was the youth minister there. They would have to call Chad out of his office because Andrew was throwing a fit. You have to take him into his office to have his fit. We got phone calls from school when he was in preschool. I mean, like, they asked him not to come back. It was that bad, y'all. But I might get emotional here. So in second grade, he finally got diagnosed ADHD. And then he was ODD, oppositional defiant disorder. That is a disorder, guys. And we went through the behavior therapy and also with just doing different parenting techniques with him and discipline techniques with him. Through the years, we were able to get him to verbalize what was bothering him. If he needed to get out an emotion, we would let him get out the emotion and he would be done with it, to the point where when he got into, and we did have behavior plans in place at school, and to the point where he eventually grew out of it. He has learned how to deal with his emotions, and as far as like his, you know, how he handles things. And I might get emotional here. At one point, I was like, does he have a mental disorder? Because I just was so not sure because of the behaviors. But he's learned through the years from what we've talked to him about and just shared with him. And there was other people in the path that would just love this child and not look at him a different way. Because there were times where he understood after he would have the fit and be like, I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong with me. Like, he would get emotional and be like, what's wrong with me, mommy? And that was very hard for me to see. But for him to be an adult now, and he's had to deal with people that are not nice to him, and he's handled it in such a good way, a healthy way. And we've even had people come up to us like at church and say, he's a good young man. You raised a fine one. And for what they didn't know or what we went through with him, there would be times where I would just go home and I would cry because I thought that no one would ever say that about him, because of what he had to go through, what we went through with him parenting. Anyways, I went on a tangent. But, you know, I say this to say that every child is different. Disciplining strategies are different with every child. You don't do one thing and then do another. Potty training was completely different. You know, even the way your children think is different. I was thinking about the toddler years, and I was even thinking in my head now, just because my kids are older now, I wish that what I knew now, I wish in some instances I would go back and I could change some of the ways that I thought. But guys, there were some times where I felt like Kathy did when she was this morning. Like, what is wrong with my children? Like, I would cry and be like, I'm the worst mother ever, or I can't handle this, especially with the toddler years. I mean, we're talking I talked about sleep training, like trying to get the kids to sleep. When Andrew would throw his fits, Andrew was hard to put to sleep. You know, the boys were harder to potty train than Ashlyn, because I think boys are harder to potty train personally. And like I said, discipline strategies were so different. But I think now when I think about it, I just think about, I wish that I had the time to go back and be the mother that I know that I probably should have been. And you may think this way later on in life, like, I wish I had more time. There are times where I felt like I want to go back and I want to change some of the ways that I did things with my toddlers.
So now I'm going to jump in and say something to this.
Yes. And I'm going to eat because this was really good as I make a mess again.
And this is just to encourage you so that you don't dwell on the guilt and dwell on the what if, because we don't dwell in what ifs. Like, what if I did this differently? It's we
You're
live
right.
now and trust the Lord step by step. One of the things I'm going to say to you to encourage you is this, that God knew that all three of your children needed Ellen as their mom. He knew that each one of them needed you where you were in that stage of life, right?
Very true.
And so one of the things that I'm saying to you, and then I'm going to say to the ladies who do listen to this podcast who happen to be moms, those who are part of the Christ's family, there's no guilt. Like, the Lord is with you, and he's going to give you the grace that you need, and he's going to allow you opportunities to repent and ask your children's forgiveness of, hey, mommy messed up here. I was impatient.
Yeah.
I was unloving. I did not love you, and I didn't love God. Like, that speaks volumes to your children when you go
and
to
I've
them.
had to say that to my kids through the years, that, you know, mommy was wrong. I'm sorry I yelled at you. But you know what the cool thing is that my kids even come back when they've been a little bit snippy with me.
Yeah.
Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to raise my voice. All three of them.
That's because you modeled it. Like, when you are a humble person.
I also modeled not nice things, but...
But that's your opportunity right there to remind them, like, I'm not perfect and I need Jesus.
Absolutely.
Like, that's a common phrase in our household. Your mommy is not perfect, and I am a sinner, and I am praying that by God's grace he would continue to grow me in sanctification. But at the end of the day, I'm not perfect. I'm gonna be impatient. I'm trying so hard not to, and sometimes I'm doing it on my own strength instead of resting in the Lord, you know. So I say all this to say, because I've been there too. Like, in fact, I remember I had breakfast with a good friend of mine right after Dorothy was born. I would say probably 6 weeks or so after she was born. And I remember just being really sad and feeling some guilt because I'm a different mom with Dorothy than I was with my other two. But the reminder to me was, there's no guilt for those who are in Christ Jesus. Yeah. Like, praise God that he's sanctified you and changed you. Absolutely. Praise God that he has shown you where you can grow and change.
Yeah. Anyway. And I think too, also, like you grow in Christ, you also grow in motherhood, because
and wisdom, for sure.
You know, like I said, each child is different. So you get more wisdom with every child. For sure. And you might do things a little bit differently. But, you know, every kid is different. Yeah. You handle every kid different. Yeah. You know, and I love that analogy that you gave, because there are times where I know we have a lot of listeners that are mothers that have toddlers or about to be mothers. There's going to be days where you feel inadequate, you know.
But that's where you need to be, because you can't do it.
Yeah.
Without Christ.
You're not super mom. Yeah. I'm going to say that you're not super mom. You're not going to be perfect, because we're not perfect human beings, because we are sinners. You know, even though we are Christians, we're still going to mess up every day. You know, we're still going to mess up as mothers.
I will never forget. I think I shared this in a podcast already, but I'll just plug it back in here in case I didn't, or those of you who are listening to this episode didn't get to that episode. Do you remember me telling you that at the very beginning of my motherhood journey, Jason was traveling a lot, and I was very much feeling like I was a single mom in many ways. And there was one really hard day where my toddler was pushing back on everything, and the baby wasn't sleeping, and I was so exhausted and so tired. And we were living in a new state, didn't know very many people, and I remember going to my bedroom, sitting down and crying, and literally crying, Lord, I can't do this. Like, I need help.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, it was like this, like, and I'm not kidding. It's like this spirit just,
yeah,
you're right.
Yeah.
You can't do this, Kathy.
Yeah.
But guess who can?
Yeah.
Jesus and me are going to walk through this with you. And that afternoon, my baby took a 3.5 hour nap. My toddler played so quietly and sweetly in the room, and I had a 3-hour time to take a quick nap, spend some time in the Word, and just pray and really change my focus. Yeah. Anyway,
I think God knows when we need those times.
That's why
He will place those times.
Yeah, that's why I say, like, when you're at that point, that's exactly where the Lord wants you, because He wants you He wants you to not rely on your strength, but on His.
Yes,
to parent.
I also think that goes along with faith too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just because you become a Christian and you accept Christ into your life, the Lord will bring you through many difficult times because He's trying to grow you in your faith. Because becoming a Christian is not only just accepting Christ, but also sharing your faith journey with other people, because there may be one day where whatever struggle you're going through, you're going to meet somebody that has that struggle, and you will be able to tell and talk to that person, hey, I know exactly what you're going through, and guess what? God got me through that. You know, let me pray for you. Well, this is the scripture that I use to help me get through that. You know, y'all, the toddler years are not easy. I mean, Kathy is right in the middle of it right now.
I am. I'm back at it, actually.
Yeah, and I mean, she's just the most adorable thing, by the way.
So I was telling Ellen.
Her.
I was telling Ellen.
I'm eating again.
You're totally fine. I realized I was eating my little malt eggs, and you could probably hear me, and I apologize, y'all, crunching. You like that sound there? You're welcome. No, I was telling you this earlier, and I was telling this to my mother-in-law and my mom and someone else, maybe some other good friends, that if Dorothy Jane were my first, we would have probably 12 children. She really is, like, y'all, like, she really is.
She's very laid back and very happy,
chill, pretty compliant.
I'm dooming you now, because I'm going to say I haven't seen her throw a fit yet. She'll probably throw a big one after this episode.
What you guys need to know real quick about my years, my motherhood journey in the toddler years. My oldest is by far my hardest kid. There are some very strong-willed, just very strong-willed from the beginning, and would push back, unrelenting, like, to no end. And I'm like, this has to end. Like, and I just remember thinking, this can be a good thing if you train it well. Like, this person's gonna go on and change the world. And this person's very black and white. There's no middle ground. My only son, and there's some things that we know, that some struggles that he has that we're very much aware of. Yeah. And so that adds to the hard. So my hardest. And then I had Evangeline, and she is what I would say your typical middle child. She wants to please, but also wants to be the mischief maker. Pull the string. Let me see, what I can do.
Jeez, that sounds so much like my daughter sometimes.
She
I love you, Ashley.
She's in a sweet stage right now, though, and I think it's kind of.
How old is she again?
10.
10. Okay.
I think it's God's kindness to me, because I'm bookends right now with a teenager and a toddler, so I think the Lord gave me this sweet spot with her. Very sweet, but she really does beat to her own drum. An example would be our family are diehard Dallas Cowboy fans. Jason, me, Joshua.
So are we.
Evangeline is not.
Not diehard, but
she is a Texans fan. Has been since she was like 3. And she's refusing to change her mind. And I'm like,
okay, that's awkward in your house.
So you know what? Like, my husband and I love it. Like, she's got a mind of her own and no one's going to stop her. Really, no one's going to stop her. Which, that's fine. She's a lot like me. She and I are very similar. So, because of how hard Joshua was as a toddler and because of how Evangeline and I were similar, and so that made that us, Josh and I are so different, which is why I think it made things hard for him and me, because I just couldn't understand. And then Evangeline and I are so alike, so that was hard. So there's a 9-year gap, because after Evangeline we went back and forth of, like, we're not in, like, Jason's traveling a lot and gone a lot. I'm exhausted. I don't think I can do a 3rd child by myself. Like, I just don't. So I was in a season of I'm done, and then he was in a season of he's done, and then we were both in a sweet spot of our children are sleeping through the night, no more diapers, no nursing, easy to travel. This is a sweet spot. And then COVID hit, and I was like, I really want a baby. I want another baby. So we started to and prayed and hoped for Dorothy. And I'm telling y'all this, like, I've prayed every single day. I'm pretty much every single day that I was pregnant with her and all the way to her birth. Lord, if it be your will, may this baby come out just like her father. Because the rest of us are a bit too much. Let her come out like her father. And she's almost 2, and she's still proving to be more like Jason. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll see, though, if that changes. I do have friends that tell me that their kids were wonderful, and then when they hit 2, all things changed. But
I'm telling you, every child is different.
Yes. I will definitely say each one of my kids were different. Even disciplining, like you said, I will say there's some excellent resources out there. There's some great books out there.
And I really think it depends on the child, because there are some there's some discipline. I equate it to teaching all the time. There are some strategies that work with some students and some that don't. So you have to find a different method. For sure. Well, you know, one of the things that I wanted to just make sure we emphasize tonight was that the toddler years are seriously one of the most challenging years so far for me, at least, in parenting. And I've been a mom for 13 years now. And that's because I agree. We're literally training these precious little, we're teaching them, discipling them, and training these souls to love God and love people. And as we've already said, like, we have sin has infiltrated the world, and it affected not just creation but mankind. And as a result of that, we're fighting against that. And so our toddlers are starting to become more independent and, like, see where the boundaries are. They don't call it the terrible twos for nothing, because this is where I almost want to say with you, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but it just made me think about this is where I would say that they are in their selfish phase. Like, they want everything mine. I don't know if you notice being around a toddler. Well, I mean, if you think about it, though, like, that's how sin, like, that's how sin came to be. Eve wanted that app. And so fruit. I think that's just the heart of sin. I think the heart of sin is pride and wanting what we want, right? And so that's why it's showing itself that way. Now, I know that there's probably going to be pushback on this episode, because I do have friends and even teachers who think that children are born good and that there's no sin in them. And look, I'm happy to have that discussion and talk with you if you think that. But yeah, I will definitely say that raising toddlers, it's tough.
And not just toddlers, being a mom, it's hard.
Yeah.
It is a hard job, but it's so
every
incredibly
stage,
rewarding.
guys. Yes. I feel like every stage is hard. It doesn't matter what stage your child is in, because we're going to be going through every stage. So we talked about babies, toddlers. We're going to be talking about school age.
Yeah.
Teenagers.
You know what? I was just realizing I have a toddler, a school age, and a teenager.
She's getting exciting. All of them.
I won't have much to say on adulthood. I can do that.
I can speak on that because I'm in the middle of it. So interesting.
One of the things that we start at a young age with our children is, and it's like really quick, of reminding them to like love God, love people, and take care of the world that He's given us. And so an example like that with a toddler would be, you actually saw me earlier.
Yeah.
Dorothy.
I loved it.
She goes through these weird phases where she likes to take her writing toys and shove it into our dog. And our dog doesn't like that. And I'm like, Dorothy Jane, that's not how we love Bonnie. Can you show me how to love Bonnie? Let's pet Bonnie. This is how we love Bonnie. So I will say that some of the things that I'm doing a little bit differently with Dorothy than I did with my other two is I am trying hard to model the behavior.
Yes.
Like with Joshua and Evangeline, I would say that's not how we love our dogs. But what I'm doing differently is I'm saying, Dorothy, this is not how we love Bonnie. Let mommy show you. And so I'm modeling how to love the things that God has given us. And then the other thing that I'm also doing differently, and that's because I learned I didn't do it right the first time, is being absolutely consistent in my disciplining of her.
Yes.
If I like, an example would be if she's standing up in the kitchen chair and I say, chairs are for sitting, please sit in your chair. If you can't sit in your chair, then you're going to have to get off the chair.
Yeah.
Okay. So pre-Dorothy, I would say that like 5 times.
Yeah.
And then by the 5th time, I'm mad and frustrated because they didn't listen. Now with Dorothy, if she doesn't sit, I remove her from the chair. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're not sitting. You're supposed to sit. So that's one of the things that my encouragement to you, if you're a mom of toddlers or about to be a mom of toddlers, is being consistent with how you discipline. Not only being consistent, but making sure you and your spouse are on the same page.
Amen, sister.
That can be tough if you guys have differing things. And at the end of the day, I would always submit to Jason because he's the leader of our home. And I'm like, okay, here's what I think. What do you think? And usually we land on the same page. But if we didn't,
that was the same with Chad and I.
If we didn't, I'm like, well, you're the leader of the home and I'm submitting to you and trusting that, you're leading us. Anyway, so so I say that to say with disciplining, to be consistent when you discipline, but also to do it with grace behind it. See, I grew up in a home where discipline happened. I would consider abuse, though. No, it was abuse, not consider. It was, if you don't do this now, you're going to get whooped. Like the first time. There was no, and I can't tell you how many times I got whooped with any object that was nearby.
Yeah.
This was before I was adopted. So, and I think we have to be careful that when we're disciplining, we're not coming down with this authoritative, angry. Yeah. It's more like, hey, I see you. I love you. I care. Yeah. And this is heading towards a path of destruction. Obviously, it looks different when you talk to a 2-year-old versus a 13-year-old. Yeah. Like my 13-year-old and I are talking about, hey, this is the kind of behavior that leads to a path of destruction. And what that looks like is this. This is the kind of behavior that leads to life. And so with my toddler, it's, hey, you're going to, like, sometimes natural consequences are the best consequence. Yeah. Like if I know she's not going to get hurt, I'm like, hey, you're going to fall and you're going to bonk your head.
Yep.
and she fell and bonked her head and cried. Guess what? She's never done that thing again.
Because they learned.
She learned that hurt. Yeah. Now, there are obviously times where she's not capable of understanding. Yeah. So, as parents, we have to create boundaries for our children.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
And anyway, sorry, that was a discipline. And potty training, Joshua was hard. God. He was so hard. Evangeline,
I really think boys were harder. Because Ashlyn didn't want to try to potty train, but she did. And on her own. But I think boys are harder, personally.
See, I think it depends on the kid. I've potty trained way too many people to count. Because if you don't know, I have a degree in early childhood education, and my last year I worked in a early childhood development center, and helped potty train a lot of kids. And I also worked in daycare through college.
Girl.
So I had some boys who were amazing.
Yeah.
And then I had some who took forever. My son was hard. Evangeline, and I'm not kidding, she potty trained herself. I think it's because she had her big brother who was potty trained. Because again, he was harder. Yeah. She knew mommy and daddy used the restroom. She was fully potty trained.
Wow.
At 2.
Wow.
And I didn't do anything crazy. Like, there's crazy methods. Now, I did the crazy method with Joshua. Because I'm like, you're too old. You need to be potty trained.
I think we did that with Austin, too. Because he just would not potty train. I was pregnant with Ashley. And I'm like, I can't have 2 children in diapers. I can't. This could be too expensive. Child's like, oh, no. We are potty training this child. And he got potty trained right before I had Ashlyn.
That's awesome.
But it was like we were oh my gosh. There was just so many times. I mean, there was times where Chad's like, "Okay, watch me go to the bathroom."
That's awesome. That's funny.
Hit the Cheerios. It was, I can't. That was crazy methods. I don't even remember with Andrew. Yeah. I think he learned on his own, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's been that long. I told y'all, I'm old.
Yeah, Evangeline was potty trained. She potty trained herself, and it was amazing. And Dorothy is not quite 2. She'll be 2 in July. She's been telling us consistently for several weeks now, poopy, pee.
Before she's gone, or
no, as she's gone, and that's like one of the one of the indicators that they're getting close.
Yeah,
it's like you need a diaper change. Aha! I'm like, you were getting close, girlfriend.
Okay,
so
nice.
It will be interesting to see if it was like her big sister or not.
I had to use incentives with all of my kids. I'm like, okay, if you go potty in the toilet so many times, you get this book, you get this toy. Yeah, because I had to do that.
I know a lot of people. I have a lot of friends who did that, like sticker charts and stuff.
Oh God,
there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
nothing at all.
Again, every child is different. Mm-hmm. Whatever works. Mm-hmm. And then I like what you said earlier, be consistent. I think that's the most important thing in parenting in general, mothering. Be consistent as you can.
This will be the time that I jump in here and say, because the toddler years are really hard and challenging, I think it's important, moms, that you have some time, that you take some time alone. Yes. That you work out something with your husband, or if you don't have that support, a grandparent or a good friend, where every now and then, maybe once a month, maybe every other week, whatever works, that you go and have some time to just be, like, to breathe, to spend time reading a book without being interrupted, spend time being in the Word without being interrupted. I think it's really good because it kind of recharges you. Yeah. And that's one of the things that Jason and I really made happen around that time, where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. And we had a sit down, come to Jesus talk. And he's like, okay, what do you need? I'm going to support you. What do you need? And it's like, I think I need a Saturday afternoon or a Saturday morning where I can just, and he's like, okay. So it's not every Saturday, and sometimes it might be a weekday where I'll go to the coffee shop, the local coffee shop, and read a good book and have a delicious coffee.
Yeah.
And not get interrupted by that. So I think that's super important, especially in the toddler years.
Yes.
And then the other thing that I will say to you ladies who are mothering toddlers, that you need to make sure that you are filling your cup up with the word. If God's word is not in here, it's not getting into here, and it's not helping you love him and love people to the point where you should be, where you need to be.
I agree.
And so, and that's hard. Now, some of you are going to ask us, well, how do you do that? How do you do that when you're raising kids?
Yeah.
And look, it's not easy.
Sometimes you may have to get up early. I do my prayer time and devotional time. I mean, I know my kids are grown. I do it in the morning.
Mm-hmm. I have friends who set their alarm at like 5 a.m. Now, I'm not a morning person, so I'm like 5 a.m. So if you're a morning person, get up before your kids. Try to get up an hour before your kids. If you're an evening person, instead of sitting down and watching a TV show, spend time in the Word. Yeah. Now, I am trying to start my day being in the Word, and so that what that looks like for me right now is I don't stay up so late anymore, so that I can get up before
I used to be a night owl. Now, surprisingly, I'm a morning person because I get up early, do my devotional and prayer time, and then I exercise.
You're a fitness coach. Let's just put it out there.
I am a fitness coach.
In fact, she's gonna be my fitness coach here in a little bit. Y'all wait. She's gonna transform me.
I'm gonna try. It has to be in the will. I'm gonna piggyback on what you say too. You know, being in the Word, but also making sure you're surrounded by other ladies that are grounded, as well as in your. I think you need to have a variety of ladies.
Absolutely.
Ladies that are going through your same walk, you know, they've got toddlers, but also other ladies that have been there.
So that they can be like, hey, come on.
Yeah.
You know?
Or even new mothers as well.
Yeah.
And then also, I'm going to put a caveat to that too, is for like, you should be, I looked it up. They still do MOPS. I don't know if you've ever heard of MOPS, Mothers of Preschoolers. That to me was my saving grace during the toddler years. I actually was watching one of my really good friends' baby. Hi, Jennifer. Her child is now in college. That's how old I am. I watched her son when he was like a baby, his first year, and I told Jennifer, I said, I really, really. I need to have an outlet. I was doing MOPS before I started watching her son, and she said, absolutely, Ellen, you do what you need to do. Take Connor with you when you go to your MOPS meetings. And those MOPS meetings, guys, just really, really set me, grounded me. I was able to fellowship with other Christian ladies, mothers that were going through the same things I was doing, and just a nice support fellowship system as well. We did things. We had I went, it was every other week, twice a month. They had childcare. Now I didn't have to. I think I had to pay a small fee. So I think you have to pay now, but I don't know. I looked it up. I think there are some in the area, but if you're a mother that needs to plug in with other Christian mothers that are going through the same walk as you are, MOPS is a great resource. I mean, that was for me. Even when we moved to Mississippi, when we got into the ministry, I started a charter at the church that we were at because I didn't want to not be away from that.
Yeah.
So just to put that out there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I never did MOTS, but I did something, it's called Bible Study Fellowship, and it was only like one day a week, and it was in the mornings where they had free childcare, and then you went and did a study, like you did a Bible study with women all around in your area.
Nice.
And your kids were learning the same study, which was really cool. So I did that for a couple of years, which was a nice little time to be with other women, time to be in the Word, and they were still learning
So that was once a week?
That was once a week. And they still do that.
Okay.
And then I also heard this back when I was raising Joshua and Evangeline as toddlers. A friend of mine shared this idea, and I'm like, I love this, and I want to do this. And that was like your close group of girlfriends who are all raising toddlers.
Yeah.
You guys alternate, like one mom, like every Friday.
Yeah.
So 3 of you would get together and hang out with all your kids at one person's house, and one mom would go and have time.
Oh.
And then the next Friday,
it was are y'all hearing
mom.
this?
It was the
great.
Next mom, and then you kept the kids, and then the next Friday it was the next mom. And so I did that for a few years, but then once I really started to homeschool my oldest, I stopped doing that just because I needed to homeschool him.
Sure.
And that's when Jason's like, okay, it's time for you to have a time set apart where you can go and, what I like to call it, do things that bring me life, like fill my cup,
fill your cup. Yeah, absolutely.
So those are definitely things you can do,
and you guys need to do that.
Yeah.
Don't if you don't take time for yourself, guys, it's just things will just slowly spiral out of control for you, and you're just going to feel like, you know, things are not going your way. So we both really highly encourage everybody to take that time for yourself. You know, even if it's like an hour, do something for yourself. But
anyway, those are the toddler years. I'm sure we didn't hit everything. I mean, I will share some of our favorite books and resources over on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
And when we finish up the series of like the growing up series, we'll do a book giveaway.
Yeah.
I will close this, but before I do, I wanted to see if there was any closing remarks you wanted to say before I close out with my remarks.
I think I just want to tell ladies out there, if you've got a toddler right now, give yourself grace. And if you need to, just cry out to God. And like when I say cry, you can be literal. I'll be literal and say cry, because those are the times where your child will probably be the most challenging time of your life as a mother. Not saying all around, but that's one of the challenging times. But just give yourself grace, guys. You know, give yourself grace.
Yes. And what I wanted to close with was something that we tell our kids daily, and I'm gonna do a little talk on it, and that's loving God and loving people. So as moms, be thinking, how can I love this toddler? How can I love this toddler? How can I show this toddler who God is and teach him and her the ways of the Lord? And knowing it's going to be hard. Yeah. At times. But there's also some wonderful times and sweet moments, and soaking that in. Reminding yourself that this is a season. I think that's part of how Dorothy's a little different for me, because I'm realizing this season doesn't last.
Yeah, guys, it goes by so fast.
And
it goes by so fast.
And then on top of that, just remind yourself what Ellen said, give yourself grace. There's some great resources out there on parenting. I realize not every kid is, hey, if you do this, this will work. But there's some great ideas that you can pull from that to help you along in your journey. But remind yourself that you're still learning and growing and sanctifying as well. And so it's okay if you're like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. And just ask the Lord to help, and he will help. That's why he promised the Holy Spirit was to be our helper in our time of need. So Anyway, I'm sure we can talk more, and we may end up doing another episode on Toddler Years.
And guys, again, if you have questions about anything that we've said, you need clarification, please message us in Messenger on Facebook. And then, I always like to add on there, these are our thoughts. These are what we've just thought, just being mothers. Obviously everybody is different. What we say may not necessarily be what other people think or believe, but just know that we're coming from our heart.
Yes.
Yep.
And what we've learned for sure.
Yep.
Anyway, well, we are so glad you joined us.
Ladies.
And we hope you guys have a great week. And we look forward to next week's episode, which will be about school age.
Woohoo.
Yeah, very exciting.
Right, ladies.
All right, see you later.
Bye.